What's going on? We got 4 deck techs for you today. A little bit of the classic, a little bit new, all awesome. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, like the video, and let me know which of these deck techs you like best. We're looking at a classic Kaalia of the Vast, also Ulasht, the Hate Seed, a 5-color Commander Classic Chromat, and a good boy 3-color pair with Reyhan, Lost of the Abzan, and Yoshimaru, Ever Faithful. Let's get into it. I would recommend only playing this deck with people that you trust and care about and who won't get up and leave after you do this to them. Let's talk about Callia Demons. Callia the Vast is a classic commander. She is the ramp in your deck. I am going to talk about some demons because, well, frankly, they're so fun to play with. But that's really where you get to choose how you build the deck. Again, I preface, please be sure your playgroup is okay with what I'm about to share with you. You need tons of ramps. A Soul Ring, Talisman of Hierarchy, the other talismans, Arcane Signet. You need Kaalia out as soon as possible because you're really not doing much until she's on the battlefield. You're also going to want Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. She needs haste and she needs to not be targeted. If you have a way to give her indestructibility as well, that would be really ideal. These are really non-negotiables in a Kaalia deck. Okay, I know we're talking demons, but you do have to get this dragon into the deck somehow. Hellkite Courser allows you to put Kaalia onto the battlefield with haste without paying her mana cost. That means you're going to get a free demon that turn. Ideally, you're playing it with Ephemerate so that at the end of the turn you don't have to give up Kaalia. You just blink her and she gets to stay on the field. Just in case you're playing against dragons or something, you're going to want Blind Obedience. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. That's going to leave the skies open for you to get in there with the big dum-dums. Alright, here's some of my favorite demons to drop into play. Archfiend of Despair, recently reprinted, essentially doubles your damage. Rakdos, Lord of Riots. When you drop it into play, you immediately turn him into a ramp spell for yourself, reducing the cost of all the creatures you have in play. Will have in play. When Rakdos was done rioting, he decided to start up a circus. So you got Rakdos the Showstopper as well. Here's a really on-theme board wipe. The only creature that might die here is Kaalia, but if all your demons are staying in play, it won't matter. The game will end. Burning Rune Demon is really cool because it's going to allow you to go get one of your 2 best demons and put it into your hand. Then if you play Reanimate or something, you get both demons for this plus the cost of Reanimate. Alright, and the demon that strikes the most fear here, Master of Cruelties. Alright, the demon I love to play the most in this deck, Master of Cruelties. It takes your opponent's life total to 1 with first strike. So that means if you have 2 creatures attacking, the other one will kill your opponent. Good deal in my books. And finally, disclaimer warning, these are the cards that I would play in the deck, but I would not play them until I'm ready to win the game. The first is Blood Moon. Locking down all the colors of your opponent's deck is going to put you way ahead. The blue-based deck can't bounce all your stuff if all they have is mountains. And finally, secretly, Kaalia is the only deck I would ever play Armageddon in. Do not just run this spell out there and restart the game. That is not what this is about. You drop your demons into play, you hit your opponents, then you play Armageddon, and your opponents are free to scoop at that point. The game will end. Again, and I can't stress this enough, do not just play this as a way to get back at people for doing something you don't like. So use this power carefully because secretly, Kaalia is the land destruction deck in all of Commander, and it's okay. I hope that helps. Do you want to learn about an old deck with tremendous upside? Let's take a look at Ulasht, the Hate Seed. I was happy to dive in and see what we can do to upgrade an Ulasht deck. I will admit, I was very surprised how deep I could go with this, and I actually got really excited about all the cards I found. First up, just a red-green creature that'll add counters to Ulash when you cast it. Brand new, Ruby, Daring Tracker. I love the Eldraine take on Fairy Tales. Obviously, this is supposed to be a little Red Riding Hood, and it's a mana ramp for the deck. It's not often I get to recommend Tana the Bloodsower, especially into the 99 of a deck, but since Ulasht makes Saprolings, I thought why not add a red-green creature that also makes Saprolings. So secretly Ulasht is a combo deck, it turns out. We're going to use those last 2 abilities there to try and make as many creatures as we can and machine gun down the table. So here we go. We're going to play Ashaya, Soul of the Wild. This makes our non-token creatures into forests, which means they tap for mana. And we're pairing it up with Lotus Cobra and Nissa Resurgent Animist. That means now as those creatures enter the battlefield, they're making a mana because they're lands. That's going to give us the mana we need to remove counters from Ulasht and do all the fun things we want with it. Also, because we'll be generating Saprolings, We're going to sack those to make some colorless mana with Ashnod's Altar. And we get to play scary card Concordant Crossroads just to make sure we can tap all our creatures for mana. Along with that, we get Anger into the graveyard, another way to give everything haste. And we don't want any of our creatures to be countered, so we're playing Vexing Shusher, which will also give counters to Ulasht when we finally cast it. Along with that, it turns out this is a combo Hardened Scales deck, so no question we need Hardened Scales here. We're moving counters around. The Ozolith is an... Obviously, it means we get a copy of Ozolith the Shattered Spire as well. And we get to play Grumgully the Generous, everyone's favorite Mushroom Fiend. A fun removal spell for you is Artifact Mutation. Blow something up your opponents are controlling and create a bunch of Saproling tokens. Such a cool benefit there. And if you really want to up your game with the counters, Tribute to the World Tree will help you with that. We're playing Cryptolithrite so that all of our creatures have tap, give us mana of any color. Here's how you finish the game off. Impact Tremors and Perforos, God of the Forge. Turn all of those creatures hitting the battlefield into damage to each of your opponents. I'm really astounded at how much new stuff Ulasht has got in the last year. So the person who brought this deck forward as a suggestion, thanks very much. I really enjoyed looking up cards for this. The Hellion Hydra itself will be proud of all the +1 counters and damage it's going to be doing. Enjoy.
I'm never going to stop talking about this list. We're of course talking about an OG 5-color commander in Cromat. Look at all those activated abilities. This is so cool. I will admit, I've built a Cromat deck before. It was a lands deck. It used druids to untap and tap the Karoo lands to make tons and tons of mana. But it turns out people have been going a different way for the last few years, so let's get into it. First of all, Cromat is the only deck I would play Chromatic Lantern in for the flavor. You need as much mana of any color as you can possibly get. This serves that purpose. Alright, now to the meat and potatoes. Cromat is a mutate deck. That's right, we're on 5-color mutate, baby. That means we get to play Otrimi in the deck, and mutating with this will allow you to start buying back cards that you've lost along the way. You get to play box featured art Gemraiser. This is how you're going to destroy your opponent's artifacts and enchantments. Of course, the big thing here is we got to get Cromat out as soon as possible, so we're playing lots of mana rocks to get him out, and then we can start putting things on him. I love when I get to include Parcel Beast in a deck. Cheap mutate cost, lots of ramp. We get to play Aluna, Apex of Wishes. This mutate ability is awesome. Cheating cards into play is a great idea. Speaking of cards that cheat creatures into play, the only human in the deck is going to be Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. It's a great way to double up mana, and we get to cheat our big, silly Icorian creatures directly to the battlefield. We need to protect Cromat too, so we've got Tyvar's Stand, and probably one of the most silly interactions with Mutate, Ephemerate. If you have a huge Mutate stack on your commander, and then cast Ephemerate, the stack blinks out and comes back in as all the separate creatures. What a wild thing. We want non-legendary copies of our Mutate stack, so we're playing Vesuvan Duplimancy. How about a Bant extra combat thing? Finest Hour gives us Exalted and the ability to attack a couple of times. And let's be realistic, Cromat's going to have so many words in its tech box, it's going to be so worth it. And then to keep the land base cheap, we're going with Guild Gates. And that means we get to run Amaze's End as a backup win con to just kind of end the game eventually. So Cromat Mutate. What a deck. I didn't know that's where people were taking it. Kind of makes sense though. What a great creature to put all the other Mutate creatures on above or below. And a little Amaze's End for cheap mana base and a cool finish. There's no question people are going to want to see this deck in action. We've got a good little pupper in Yoshimaru Ever Faithful. And I was thinking, what would be a good partner for the pupper? How about Reyhan, Last of the Abzan? The end result? An awesome junk +1/+1 counters legendary deck. Let's take a look. First off, new card alert, Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Graveyard Hate grows Yoshimaru. And there's potential there to give Yoshimaru or anything else with +1/+1 counters some wild activated abilities. We need cheap legendaries in the deck, so we're adding things like Reese the Redeemed. Any Yoshimaru deck is the perfect Mox Amber deck. It's this kind of card that leads to Yoshimaru attacking for like 4 or 5 on turn 2. The good little boy also gets bigger when you play legendary lands, so we're including Ejongo. We're including Takanuma. And yeah, you can get a Boseiju in there as well as any of the original Kamigawa legendary lands. It's a +1/+1 counter deck, so it'd be
silly not to include hardened scales and other versions of this kind of card. We got our big green beastie boy, arguably a good little pup or two. Lae'zel goes right into the deck as well. In a deck where you want to put a ton of permanents onto the battlefield, you might as well play Reki, the History of Kamigawa. I'd say almost every card in your deck is going to be legendary, so this just says play something, draw a card, play something, draw a card, and that's a great place to be. You get a really cool board wipe in Urza's Ruinous Blast. You're going to keep all your legendary stuff, which is like all of it, and your opponents are going back to the Stone Age. We're still talking +1/+1 counters, and that means we want to hold on to them for as long as possible, so we get to play the Ozolith. We also get Kethis the Hidden Hand. I think this is my favorite Abzan commander. It's ramp for your legendary spells, and it's graveyard recursion by exiling legends from your graveyard. This card is super powerful and really easy to take advantage of. Yoshimaru also gets Tishar, Ancestor's Apostle. This bird cleric loves legendary pieces as well. Some extra graveyard recursion is never a bad thing in a deck like this. And to finish off the deck, why not another copy of this effect? Moira and Teshar give you that recursion, but you get to bring anything back and use it for one turn, which can be super swingy, and I'm here for that kind of thing. So we got Yoshimaru and Reyhan. We're going to gain a lot of life. We're putting lots of +1 counters on things. We're playing lots of legendary cards, which is just fantastic. And we're abusing our graveyard. I think this is a really good start to a deck. Hope that helped.